Okay, now turning my attention back to this side of the machine, by swinging this gear assembly, which is on this this sector gear, it's not really a sector gear, on this arm right here, by swinging this up to this position and meshing this gear with this gear, that basically completes the drivetrain. And again, the reason why this is able to swing down is because this outer gear right here can be changed. Right now this is a 48 tooth gear, and there's one position on the threading chart that I believe is used for turning taper threads. I don't recall what, but it's just one position that uses a 69 tooth gear. And according to the chart, it talks about basically 3 places where the gears, where it gives the size and teeth of the gears. But in 2 of those places it stays 48 teeth all the time. So there's only one place where it changes from a 48 tooth to a 69 tooth. And I believe they describe that as sector. So they also mention stud. So I'm not positive, but I mean, I know we can't change this gear. Obviously is fixed. We can't change the size of this gear because this doesn't move in relationship to this, and this doesn't move in relationship to this, so we know we can't change that gear inside there. So the only gears we could really change are this outer one, this one, and then this inner one. But this inner one is driving this one, so I don't think that the way this arm is set up that there's the ability, well, I guess technically maybe you could swap these gears around and end up with a smaller gear in here. But I'm pretty sure this is the 48 tooth. I think I already checked it. So I should actually have, if memory serves me, I thought there was an extra gear that came with this mess of stuff. But at the moment I can't find it, which perplexes me because I really wanted to locate it and keep it with the lathe, so they don't accidentally sell it as a surplus gear, because I've got all those South Bend 16-inch South Bend lathe parts, and I've got a bunch of gears with those, so I might have to double check and make sure I didn't accidentally file that gear with those. But for now, all I want to do is I want to set it up the way it's set up 99% of the time for the conventional, all the other positions on the chart. So the mesh between this gear and this gear is what I want to set right now. And that's basically because since this gear can slide up and down, since the shaft of this gear can slide up and down, this whole arm pivots, I can control how tightly or loosely this meshes with this. Now, if I mesh it really tight, it'll have a quieter gear train, but it'll cause excessive wear to the, and premature wear to the teeth. So I want to set some clearance there for these teeth. And I'm sure there's somewhere there's a calculation in Machinist Handbook or something where you go by diametric pitch and stuff like that and figure out what the clearance is supposed to be. But the reality is I don't have a feeler gauge small enough to actually fit in that small gap where the tooth is, for one thing. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use a method that I've seen used by others. I think I may have even seen Mr. Pete talk about using this method. And that's basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a regular old piece of paper. I'm going to loosen this up, put a regular old piece of paper in here, bring this up against the paper to squeeze the paper in there, tighten it, and then I'll rotate the gears to get the paper out, and that should give me some clearance. Alright, so here's a couple of the South Bend gears just for the heck of it. Put these on, and I was going to use a couple of these gears to demonstrate the what I was talking about. This gear is from the apron, so it doesn't mesh with that gear at all. Alright, this should be from the drive. Yeah, this is from the drivetrain on the South Bends. gearing. So you can see that, where they mesh right here. Well, imagine if, these two shafts are not able to move. Well, then you're pretty much, this clearance is going to be preset, and there's not much you could do about it. So but on our situation here, what I'm dealing with is that this can move in and out, so I can control this amount of clearance. So you can imagine if I want to really exaggerate this and have like really sloppy clearance here, that's not good, and that's also going to be a very noisy gear train. But just as bad could be if I have this really tight up against here. That'll quiet down the gear train, but it'll cause excessive wear on these teeth, which is not good. So I've got my machinist's handbook here, and I've opened to the section on gearings, and there's a nice diagram in here, and it's got all of tells you what they're talking about with all these different terminologies. But what I'm concerned with right here, really, because I'm not making gears, so I'm not concerned with a lot of these other things, is this little tiny gap that you can see right in there, and they're showing that that's the clearance. So I want to see, just for the heck of it, if I can find how you would calculate the clearance. Yeah, so there certainly is. The information's in here, but it's all Greek to me. Well, I mean, it seems pretty clear. The minimum clearance is C for clearance equals 0.157 divided by P, P being the diametral pitch. And I could determine the diametral pitch of the gear easy enough. The problem is, in order for me to actually do all of these calculations, I've got to identify things like this. This is for a 14.5 degree involute full depth tooth, and this is for a 14.5 degree composite. Well, down here is another calculation using 0.20 as the constant for a 20 degree involute stub tooth. I actually do not know what these gears are, so that's why I'm going to go with the old tried and true method of the piece of papier. Alright, so I've got my piece of paper in there, and I've tightened up the bracket. So now I'm just going to get my piece of paper out. So I'm just going to rotate this by hand. I'm going to pull this thing out to engage the gears. There we go. And we can see that that did absolutely nothing. So the whole time that I thought that was meshing, it wasn't meshing. You know what? I'll tell you the other thing I forgot to do. I forgot that by design, this gear can be moved in and out away from this. So obviously this inner gear must be, there must be a reason for that gear to be able to be moved. For this to be moved in and out, there must be a reason. What I want to do is, I want to keep this down just momentarily, loosen this back here, move this gear out, put the paper in here and set the clearance between these two gears first. There we go. There's that one. Should do it. Alright, so that actually should work now. I have the gear cover here off right now, and I just realized that, well, dude, with the gear cover off, the gear cover bolted on is actually also acts as what keeps this gear captive right here. So this nut doesn't want to screw all the way down because those threads don't get used really, and so I'm just going to put this gear in here from my junk pile as a spacer so that I can tighten this up. I want to see whether or not that makes a difference as far as that sound goes. I'm disengaging the lever on the 3-speed gearbox just for the heck of it to see if that's where the noise might be. No, I didn't think so. Somebody with more experience might be able to tell me whether or not that noise is par for the course for a gear train like that running dry with no oil on it yet, or am I listening to something that's amiss because I don't have those clearances correct? And if so, does it need more clearance, less clearance? I don't know if that's going to come out because it's kind of dark down here, but that is I can tell that's way too much clearance there. So the paper trick didn't really work too well over here. I think because I had this gear moved down so that it wasn't meshing with this gear when I was trying to set this clearance. I think when I actually swivel this up, it changes the clearance here. So I'm going to reset this a little tighter because that's really sloppy. See if I can get it to turn while it's... You see that? That tooth is actually a little damaged there. We do have some damaged teeth here. But there we go, right there. See, that puppy is way too sloppy, so I'm going to reset that. Alright, I reset that clearance on that gear and I think it's much better. Oh yeah, that's much better. There's a tick, 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 tick. So there's probably a tooth on there somewhere that's got a little bit of damage. Probably a deformed tooth somewhere. Oh, what a pain in the butt. I shifted the gearbox thinking I would slow it down so I could maybe try and isolate which gear was creating the noise, the ticking noise. And now the leather belt won't stay on. It keeps slipping off. Of course, you know, it worked perfectly fine until now when I've got the guard and everything on there and making it difficult for me to work on it, because I think I might have to move that upper pulley out. Well, it looks like I can get... I rotated this pulley so that the set screw's facing down, and I think I could just loosen this from here. Move that about 1/8 of an inch out, the starters. I noticed I was having trouble when I first put this together until I tightened the belt tension. And what I just noticed today was when I was manually turning the pulley up here to manually get these gears to turn, the belt was slipping on here. So I've got slippage again. So maybe I've got to tighten this leather belt a little bit more. That might be part of the problem. And then also, I did notice when it was running, this edge of the belt was just coming off of the pulley over here and going back on, and then that was causing it to walk off. Alright, so now when I'm rotating it manually, it seems like it might be better. Yeah, so after all that, it turns out that was an increase in speed. Didn't want that. That's also an increase. So it looks like I already had it in the lowest speed. I wasn't looking at the spindle, I was just listening to the gears and thinking it sounded fast, but I guess that's just because of the gear reduction. Just had to go grab some earplugs. I don't know if you guys can appreciate how loud this thing is, but it's a lot louder than I would like it to be. Guess I won't be running this thing when the kids are sleeping. Let's test the feed. I was just going to reposition the camera, and all of a sudden it got quieter, and I realized the feed just shut off. And there's my problem right there. That little shifting gear came out. The only thing keeping it from falling out now is it's rubbing against the inside of the cover more than white board. There's a threaded hole in the end here, so there's got to be something that goes on there that was missing. There's got to be something that goes on here that was missing. And then even when I did engage it again, the drive still wasn't working, but that's because I think that lever might be in the neutral position. Although I didn't touch it, so why was this driving before? There ought to be a law. Let me see if what I have, if in what I have left for parts, if there is something that goes on there. But I don't think there was anything on there. It's funny. I was just thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna have to probably make something up to fit that, because ideally what I want is a something with a hole small enough for the bolt or screw that fits in this little hole, but something large enough OD. But it turns out this fender washer is almost a perfect fit. I mean, quite frankly, it is a perfect fit. It fits right in this little dish area that's kind of carved out from years of whatever was on here before wearing. Alright, so now that can't come out any further than that. Alright, let's try that again. Keep going to go back into that neutral position. The feed in that direction is going to be fine. Alright, so in case you guys are wondering why it's not moving, it's because I don't have either one of the clutches engaged. Oh, slipped out again. My quick change gearbox lever just fell out because it doesn't have a spring on it. I had the sub gearbox in position 1, which is the final point, and the quick change lever is all the way to the left. So I was set at 80 threads per inch, so it's no wonder the thing was moving very slow. So I just put the other gearbox in the 3, and I'm trying to get the quick change to go into the lowest number of threads per inch. It should be that should be a faster speed, I think. Fell off the pulley again. Alright, something bad just happened because it locked up, the gear train locked up, causing the leather belt to slip and fall off. and I couldn't rotate the cone pulley manually until I disengaged that brass gear. So basically I disengaged the entire drivetrain. And I've got the quick change gearbox lever and the sub gearbox levers both disengaged. In other words, both of those levers are, the gears on both of those levers are disconnected. So it's got to be something in that shifting mechanism underneath the headstock with those pinion gears